Time to get into the Action Network luck rankings that are put together by our friend Sean Kerner and Nick Giffen. They grade teams using what's called luck percentage, which is the difference between expected and actual win percentage. Unlucky teams are often undervalued when there's a large luck disparity between them and their opponents. That's the explainer. Here's Nick Giffen. He is joining us this week. All right, Nick, as we normally do, lead us off with the 3 unluckiest teams in the National Football League.
I'm excited for this one because we got some new teams in the bottom 3 of luck, finally, feels like. So number 30, the third most unlucky team of the year, is the Green Bay Packers. They actually took the worst beat of the week this past week at the hands of the Minnesota Vikings. They had several possessions in the second half that ended on downs in Minnesota territory. And normally you'd convert at least 1 or 2 of those into some scoring opportunities, some points, but they really didn't. So they have a 2-5 record. You mentioned, the difference between expected and actual win percentage. They're 2-5, but their expected win percentage has them more like a 3-4 team. So almost exactly 1 win below expectation at this point in the season. The second most unlucky team, another new team to the bottom 3, the Atlanta Falcons. You were just talking about them. They're 4-4, but get this, guys. Atlanta has been bottom 4 in our bad beat rankings. So taking one of the 4 worst beats of the week. In 5 out of the 8 weeks, they have taken one of the 4 worst beats of the week. And they've been in the bottom half in 7 of 8 weeks in terms of bad luck. So Atlanta 4-4, they actually should be, they've played some close games. They actually should probably be 5-3 instead of 4-4. And now, of course, we can talk the quarterback change. We'll see, what that does for them. But Atlanta so far, the second most unlucky team in the NFL. And bringing up the rear, the unluckiest team in the NFL is the Chicago Bears. They're a mainstay here in the bottom 3. They are 0-2 in 1-score games. And while that doesn't sound like a whole lot, it's only 2 games. Both of those 1-score losses were actually expected score wins by our expected score metric, which, looks at all the play-by-play data and everything like that and says, here's what would happen in the long term. So in this individual case, or in these 2 individual cases, they came out well below expectation and end up losing. So, if you flip those 0-2 1-score games into those expected score wins, suddenly the Bears are potential playoff contenders in the NFC. They would be 4-4 instead of 2-6. So those are the bottom 3 in the luck rankings.
Okay.
I would say, Nick, I pay attention to your luck rankings, maybe because I do a show with you about them, but the Atlanta situation, Desmond Ridder, I think it's like half a dozen goal line or within first and goal to go situation, fumbles, interceptions, and you say it's unlucky, but Arthur Smith mentioned variables. I think one of those variables might be if the quarterback can just protect the ball when you're about to have a date with 6 points. And so
it's not just, Johnny Smith had a fumble at the 10-yard line after receiving a pass. It's been all sorts of things. Occasionally they've punted in opponent territory, like that kind of thing. So it's a conglomeration of a lot of things, but certainly Desmond Ridder is one of the key factors in that. And we would expect in the long term, it's again, we're adjusting for the skill level of the team, of the players, etc. Even Desmond Ridder, with all of his issues, has still come in below what we project for him over the long run.
Mm-hmm. That's coaching. A lot of that's coaching. And not to mention, you mentioned the unluckiest part, last part here, Tim, and then you can take it here. Just that game against Tampa, I've never seen anything like that. I remember going back to week 2 when Justin Jefferson fumbled by the end zone. I'm like, wow, you never see that kind of play. It happened. It happened 3 times in that Tampa game. Unbelievable. Ridder, Drake London, I'm pretty sure was also involved on that front. And then just unbelievable. So, hey, at least Heineke, when he got in the game against Tennessee, he was throwing the ball to wide receivers, and somehow he accumulated close to 200 yards passing, and he didn't even start the game. So, and by the way, Green Bay, it's fitting because when Green Bay and Atlanta, when you mentioned those 2 teams, they actually played each other early in the year, also in week 2. And I'm like, these 2 teams, yeesh. So fitting that they're both down there. So I
would love to know if Desmond Ridder was saying to Coach Smith, but hey, Nick Giffen at Action Network said, even though I'm not very good, I'm still unlucky. And look, I know I suck, but
Well,
it
here's
hasn't
the
gone
thing.
my way.
To have all of those turnovers in scoring position, you still had to get to scoring position. So it shows they have the potential. It shows Ritter has the potential to get them there. He just hasn't been able to finish it off as much as he's gotten them into that position.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, Owen, he's like 0 for 15 with runners in scoring position. Tell us about our lucky teams this week, Nick. I'm waiting to see if the Pittsburgh Steelers are still in the top 3 because it feels like they've been in the top 3 for 2 or 3 years now. So lay it on me.
Yeah, top 3 luckiest teams. Well, I mean, I could spoil it, but it's the exact same 3 as last week. So number 3, Philadelphia Eagles. They're 4-1 in one-score games this year. That's after they were 7-1 in one-score games in the regular season last year. So 11-2 in one-score games in the regular season these past 2 years. They had another one-score win versus NFC East rivals, the Washington Commanders. Both Commanders games against the Eagles this year, one-score wins for the Eagles. Number 2 in the luck rankings, the Cincinnati Bengals. They have had a lot of luck recently. They were a top 4 team in luck in each of their last 2 games. Now, they had a week 7 bye, but in week 6, they were second most lucky of week 6 against Seattle. And then this past weekend against San Francisco, they just missed the cut, Tim, for our video. They were the 4th most lucky team of the week this past week versus the San Francisco 49ers. So that's why Cincinnati's still in the top 2. And number 1, even after a loss, the Pittsburgh Steelers. When you're miles ahead in luck, it's going to take a lot of stuff to get you off that top line. So Pittsburgh's still the luckiest team, probably will still be the luckiest team for the foreseeable future, even if they take a bad loss or something like that. Now, they did take a loss this past week to Jacksonville, 20-10, but that was still kind of a lucky loss for them because our expected score, instead of losing by 10, had them losing by 18. So they didn't really drop a whole lot in luck percentage even after taking that loss because it really should have been a blowout loss.
You know what would really crawl up people's tailpipes, Tim, is if you told the Philadelphia Eagles faithful Philly fans, if you told the Eagles fans that you are this year's Vikings, that would make them mad. It would make them so mad. And I think they're better. Don't get me wrong.
Way better.
You guys are this year's Vikings. You're one of the luckiest teams in football. So
I will say though, no. So last year, the Vikings, they had all those one-score wins, but of course, so did the Eagles. But the Vikings were like around 50-50 in our expected win percentage. The Eagles are still 70% in our expected win percentage.
It's all relative, Nick. Don't spoil a good take from Glass.
Yeah, really. Jeez, come on.
But I love the Steelers situation. They have picture the Indianapolis Colts logo, the horseshoe. The Steelers have that all tattooed right here, right on their backside. That team, I even when they lose, they somehow are lucky. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all to see I was right bang on the Steelers.
The Steelers could do what the Colts do. You could send them a banner, luckiest team in the NFL. At the end of the year. Presented
Courtesy
to you by
Action Network.
exactly. Presented by Action Network. Okay, so with all that being said, you've crunched the numbers. We have our new rankings entering week 9. A lot of times at this point in the year, we find value possibly in luck totals. What have you gathered that might be some spots that you've circled for this coming week based on our luck rankings as it pertains to totals?
Yeah, so none of the games this week end up meeting our criteria for a luck matchup where we'll be betting on the unlucky team, but we can bet on some unlucky unders, right? So teams have been scoring more than expected. Even in a year where unders have been hitting like crazy, teams have still scored more than their expectation because they have been getting into positions, kind of like the Atlanta Falcons, getting into position to score and then not scoring. So we have 4 luck unders, and these luck totals of -5 or lower after week 2 are what we consider a luck under. They're 17-10 this year to the under, and 111, 76, and 2 to the under over the last 6 years. That is a 60% rate to the under in a 189 game sample size. So definitely a large sample size there. We got 4 of them this week. First, we have Dallas versus Philadelphia. This luck total is -6.6. This also, if you're subscribed to our Action Network Pro Tools, I definitely recommend you do that, fits our divisional under pro system. So we got 2 signals to the under here on Dallas versus Philadelphia. Second luck game, Chicago Bears versus New Orleans Saints. We have a minus 7.4 luck total on this one. The third one, Indianapolis Colts versus Carolina Panthers. We have a minus 8.8 on this one. And I really like this one at under 44.5. If you're able to get that, I got it yesterday. In the last 2 weeks, the Colts have been involved in some really high scoring games. It was like 39-38 versus the Browns or something. And then the Saints just hung a 30 something against Indianapolis. So they've been involved in games that have totaled 142 points in the last 2 weeks, 71 per game. That's insane. And the expected scores in those games averaged 50 instead of 71. So they're coming in like 21 points per game over expectation over the last two. Time to sell high on games involving Indy and take the under here. And our fourth luck under is the Washington Commanders versus the New England Patriots. I like this one as well. I am going to end up taking this one. I'm kind of waiting to see if this will get to 41, but I don't think so. So I'll probably end up tracking it at 40.5. We'll evaluate. I want to keep looking at the splits here, but both New England and Washington, if you look at their schedules, they have played teams that have averaged higher than the average NFL score this year, both by score and by expected score. So in that case, they've expected to be in these really high scoring games, and they have been high scoring, but now they play each other, and both of these teams are actually below NFL average in terms of expected totals, especially New England, which is coming.
I can tell you that from watching New England.
Yeah,
I can tell you that.
Exactly, especially New England. So I actually have this game well below 40 points, under 40.5, under 40. So I really like this one. I'm just kind of evaluating splits and see if I want to take it at 40.5 or if I think it'll get to 41, which is a key number there, but probably will end up just tracking it at 40.5.
Really quick though, do you at all factor in the Commanders defensively? This sounds like a Patriots take on offense. They sold off some pieces on that defense at the trade deadline. So does that open the door for the Patriots to be a little better offensively? Maybe.
Yes, it does. But, we're not just like, when Kerner does his injury report on the rocks, when we get these one-off players or two-off players, unless it's a quarterback, it's typically not more than a half a point or a point to the spread. So, kind of, let's call this a defensive positional grouping. It's not going to be more than half or 1 point to the total as well. So I still like the under here because I got this way under 40.5 in terms of my projection.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll tell you, Nick, this system, this model here at these luck totals, 60% in the last 6 years. You bet anything it's 60%. You can go quit your job and live on a beach. That's some good numbers. So
yes. Thank you, Mr. McDaniels. We know that's what you're doing. We understand that.
Thank you. Yeah. Nick, 60%, like I said, it's pretty damn good. So I appreciate you telling us that the Patriots are not going to look any better offensively, despite the Commanders selling off some pieces. So Glash and I look forward to texting back and forth, watching that. I think that's the marquee matchup of the week. I think the Commanders and the Patriots there. So
hey, it's always marquee for me when it's my Commanders involved.
Exactly. Your Commanders versus our Patriots, which we kind of want no part of. But thank you, Nick. We appreciate having you on. Always a blast.